We'll now take a look at a different class in Java, which is called the vector class. So Java has another class that gives us a different way for implementing lists. So we've been using arrays so far, and arrays are great, don't get me wrong. It's a very fundamental data structure that's used for organizing lists. But Java does give us a different approach if we want to use it, and this is called the vector class. So what makes this different from arrays is that the size of a vector object can grow or shrink while running the program. So unlike with arrays, once you declare your array, whatever size you pick, you're stuck with it. You can't make it any larger, you can't make it any smaller. But with vectors, you are allowed to increase the size of the vector, you're allowed to decrease the size of the vector. So let's take a look at some of the members of the vector class. So let's take a look at the instance variables first. And we have two of them. We have a protected int variable called element count. So this is just going to track the number of elements. We have our object, and notice that this is our array. So this is a class, and the underlying data structure is still an array. And this is called element data, but it is basically an array of reference variables. We also have a couple of constructors. So like the examples we've done before with creating classes, we usually have two different ones. So we have public vector, and this is our default constructor. So it creates a vector of size 0. So there's nothing in the vector at all. And then we have public vector, but we pass a size parameter. So this will create an object of the vector class, and the size of it will simply be the parameter that we passed, or size in this case. And we have quite a few methods to go with this class. So we have a method called addElement. So this just simply adds an element to the vector. So we take obj, it's some object. So this is worth noting that object is going to be a class. We'll talk more about how the object class works a little bit later on, but it's not a huge concern right now. But this just simply adds an object called obj at the end of the vector, so whatever we pass to it. We also have insert element at, where we have our object and then we have some index, and this just simply inserts our object at position index. We have a Boolean method called contains. So this is just checking to see if our vector contains the element obj. So it's just searching to see if this object exists. And if so, then it's going to return true. The element at method means that we're going to find the element at position index, and we just simply return that element, whatever that object is. The index of method just simply gives us the position of the first occurrence of an object. I think we had something similar to this with strings. So you might notice that a couple of these methods are very similar to what you've seen with strings. It's just now we're dealing with vectors instead of strings. So here we're just going to look for the first occurrence of our object obj, and we're going to return the index of the first occurrence of it. There is another version of this method where we start at index in this case. So we start at position index, and then we look for our object and we return the position of that first occurrence. So here, instead of starting at the very beginning of our vector, we're starting at some index that's been given to us. The isEmpty method just simply checks to see if there's nothing in the vector. So this just returns true if our vector is empty. And then the removeAllElements method, well, you can kind of guess what this method does, but it just simply removes all the elements in the vector. So this is a nice way of just clearing all the elements. Now, if we don't want to remove all the elements, we can remove specific ones. So the removeElementAt method just allows us to remove an element at position index, and it's going to check to see if there is one there. If there's an element at that position, then yeah, we'll take it out. And if it's not, if there's nothing there, then we won't worry too much about it. There is a size method, and this method returns the number of elements in the vector. So just as there is a .length variable for arrays, there is a size method that gives us the number of elements in the vector. And then finally, we have a toString method. So remember when we talk about classes, we define a toString method so we can format our output. Well, the vector class has its own string representation for the vector.